Good morning. How you doing? Back again for another show, roughly around the same time as we normally do it.
Good morning.
Oh,
How you doing?
sounding good there. Sounding good. Microphone is working. No robot. No viewers. Talking to myself as per normal as we start getting going here. We'll sit here quietly and wait for someone to talk to. Oh, hello. Steve's here. What's up, Steve? Good to have you here, mate. Oh, we got 6 viewers. They're flying in the door. Flying in the door. What's up, everyone? What's good? It's all good. CJ, it's all good. It's all good. Am I selling all my horses? Because in the comments yesterday, the majority of you said that I should at least sell some of my horses. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background why I think that's potentially not the greatest idea. Of course, it's the safest idea, but is it the best idea? Thanks, Steve. New slick haircut. Getting around. Yeah. Feel free to drop some questions in there. Are you guys looking at selling any of your horses, or at the moment am I in a privileged position where you guys are mainly looking to buy horses and here's me thinking, oh, should I sell? Should I not? CJ, yeah, so actually that's a good point. If you didn't catch yesterday's video in the afternoon, because I did an afternoon video yesterday around about, I don't know, 3 o'clock my time or 2 o'clock my time, I think it was. And I was mentioning that currently between my brother and I, we probably invested about 10,000 Aussie dollars each, I guess. And now we've got horses that if we were to liquidate at open sea prices right now, we would probably get close to $1 million US. Okay, and then I was sort of suggesting, well, what should I do? Should I sell half of my horses? And keep in mind that that $1 million valuation doesn't account for price increases in horses like Breathless Edge and Grandeur. That's just putting them all down at roughly what open sea prices are for that Z number. So, oh, Steve's still waiting for you first. Yeah, I know, it kind of sucks at the moment on that level, but I would keep waiting, Steve, for the time being. Wait for the drop, wait for breeding to open, and there'll be more opportunities, I think. So yeah, we're kind of thinking, well, that's where we're at the moment because breeding's not open and we're not generating any income, because obviously once breeding opens, we can generate offspring, breed offspring, and then potentially sell those offspring and start generating income, and then we become much more comfortable. But because of the game's kind of in this freeze frame at the moment, there's not a lot going on. There's a lot behind closed doors going on and improving the class system and the drop system and the breeding system and lots of other things. I hear there's lots of exciting partnerships potentially going on. I'm not sure if I was supposed to let that cat out of the bag, but I heard a little rumour told me that there's some partnerships coming soon. I guess much similar to what we just saw with Preakness. Fingers crossed, Atari is coming up soon. We haven't really heard about Atari for probably 6 months now. So yeah, the point was, like, the safest option is clearly, and this is what me and my brother struggle with, we're like, well, we've got, roughly $1 million worth of horses. Do we sell half of them and make sure that we cash in? Or do we just hold on to the horns of the bull and ride it for what it's worth, you know what I mean? And a lot of people, and I expected this to be the outcome, a lot of people were like, just cash in some. And I tend to agree, but I'm going to outline why I think that's not always the best option. It may be the safest option, but maybe not always the best option. CJ, what would you be happy talking realistically if there, of course, is that possible chance Z value can go to 0? Yeah, I mean, that's part of the risk, CJ. That is part of the risk. Z can go to 0. The major risk to Z going or taking a major hit is regulation. If we get some sort of government regulation saying that you have to cease trading until you get such and such approval for X, Y, Z. Now, I don't think that's a huge likelihood. I think the game is a game of skill, and that doesn't require any sort of gambling licenses or anything like that. But if the regulators were to say that you require a gambling license and to be gambling approved, to even continue doing what you're doing now, well, that is a big, that's probably the big one that can hit us. But I don't see that happening. But you've got to be realistic with this stuff, don't you? You've got to be realistic, and that's what makes you nervous. When you're sitting on, when you started with 20,000 and you're all of a sudden sitting on 1 million, but the potential of that million is much, much greater. And I'm not talking about asset prices increasing. I don't really care about the asset price increasing. So let's talk about why I should sell and why I shouldn't sell, and you can apply this to yourself. Not financial advice, of course. Not financial advice. Steve says selling now could be like selling BTC when it hit 1,000. Could be too. Yes, CJ, I would tend to agree that Elites and Cross may be watered down compared to Genesis and Legendary. But keep in mind where I've positioned my stable is to be producing Legendaries of the highest quality and then exclusives of the quality that no one else can match pretty much. You imagine that I have exclusives that contain the blood of Ducky Malin, Grandeur, Breathless Edge, and one of my other mares like Oh My Ether or Ace of Spades or something like that. And then I can combine the offspring of Grandeur with the offspring of Insane Hin, so the grandkids contain both of those. Offspring of Insane Hin with Breathless Edge, with Grandeur. We've got the best of the best up the top. So as far as being watered down, we've set our stable up in a position that it has the best horses in the game, or some of the best horses in the game. So we don't have crap. Richard James, next pump, time it right to cash there. We're still at the top, Richard. We're still up there. Yeah, but going by that, I should be selling out right now because we are at the top. It hasn't dropped from the top. Yeah, Dave, we're playing house money, mate. We've got our original investments back, so that's why we're not too fussed. All right. Raymond says if you have 12 of the top 20 horses in the game, you don't sell, you double down. Now, I don't think we have 12 of the top 20, but we might have 3 or 4 of them. Yeah, we're on house money, Steve, for sure. Swikes, yeah, mate, I do that with my shares, I do that with my crypto, but I think the opportunity in Zed Run is too great, in my opinion. And I'll explain that now. So, the safe option, and of course not financial advice, but just a little bit of background of where I'm going and what I'm thinking. The safer option is absolutely sell out 20, 30%. Try and get, 50, 100 Ethereum from those few key horses. And we looked at that. We definitely looked at that. But you've got to weigh it up because what you're basically giving away, like right now, the market pretty much has no idea about the potential yield of these horses, or there's only a handful of people that really understand the yield potential of these horses and what the high quality horses can really make through stud fees and more so through offspring sales. Okay, so you take a horse like, it doesn't even have to be a completely awesome horse. Well, let's use one of the better horses to begin with. You take Grandeur. Now, Grandeur is one of the best said ones in the game, and currently I think you're not going to get $1 million for him. You're just not. You're not probably going to get $500,000 for him. I think you might be able to get 50 to 75 Ethereum. Okay? 50 to 75 Ethereum, somewhere around about there. Would I sell him for that? Well, no, I wouldn't, but as part of that plan of cashing out, you probably need to sell horses at those lower prices or prices that represent great value moving forward. Now, with Grandeur, let's choose the highest number, 75 Ethereum. With Grandeur at 75 Ethereum, I believe I can sell his grandkids, and I have done already, for 3 or 4 ETH each. And he can have 7 per month. 7 per month. Okay, now yes, you have to take into account that he has to use up 3.5 mares to get those 7. But even still, it's really grandeur that's producing the value of that equation. So at 7 per month, let's choose the lower number. So we've chosen the higher estimate for what I think I can get for grandeur. And now conservatively, we'll choose the lower number at 3 Ethereum for his offspring. Now keep in mind that I also believe that grandkids, so not the direct offspring, but the grandkids are probably more financially rewarding because you can produce more of them, okay? So as you come down from grandeur, you've got the direct 7 offspring. But then as you come down from breathless edge, you have 7 offspring. So you've got 7 and 7, then you times them together, you breed them together. So you've got grandkids that have breathless edge and grandeur in them. But when you times those 7 times 7, you breed them together, well, you're going to get, so you've got 14 horses in combination. Let's assume you had 7 mares and 7 studs. So you'll be able to get 14 horses first go there. So you can sort of build that out. But anyway, that's getting a little bit too confusing. We'll focus on just purely direct offspring for this calculation. So 75 Ethereum for grandeur. He's picking up 3 Ethereum per offspring and he can have 7. So in 1 month, potentially grandeur can produce 21 Ethereum in income from his offspring. Now, as I said, once you get down to the grandkid level, you can probably get half or 1 ETH per grandkid, and then you can start really spreading out that so that you can produce as many as the market can take, essentially, for those really high quality grandkids. Now, will that market for grandeur's kids flood? Okay. Well, let's again keep it to just the direct offspring at 3 Ethereum times 7 per month. So you only need 7 people that want to have a grandeur direct offspring for 3 Ethereum per month. And we've currently got 60,000 stables. And we only need to sell 7 of those. All right? Now, as we move forward and we get 100,000 stables or 200,000 stables, it looks like you should be able to sell grandeur grandkids because they're kind of special for that money moving forward. So it would only take 3 to 4 months to get the income for that particular horse. And it's kind of the same for all the horses at the moment. And this is something, if you're thinking about selling out, that you really need to consider, because once breeding opens, if you've got a kind of special horse, how many months of breeding is it going to take to get the money that you would have got from selling? So if I sell right now 30% of my horses and I get, let's put it in Ethereum, maybe 150 ETH. I think if I use all my horses to breed and sell the offspring, that we could potentially be earning that back in 3 or 4 months and not have sold a single horse. So to sell right now at those discounted prices and give, I need to ask myself, is that an investment that I want to be a seller of? Or is that the kind of investment that I would like to get in on? And I'm already in on it. Obviously, I have to assume the risk for the next 3 to 6 months. But if I think we can at least have a good charge for the next 3 or 6 months, which I think we absolutely can do, in my opinion, not financial advice, of course. But if I think this game can survive 6 more months, then I can potentially get all the money that I would have got from selling a third or half of my horses, plus not having sold a single horse. So that's the kind of quandary, you know what I mean? Like, because the game's kind of stagnant and flat and we're not hearing much news at the moment, I'm expecting to see a blog from Zed come out today or tomorrow, hopefully, if it hasn't already come out. I haven't checked this morning. But it's a little bit stagnant and we're not really hearing much. But I expect the game to start moving again once the last drop comes, if there is only one more drop. Once breeding opens back up, the ecosystem is going to really get much more vibrant and much more energetic. And also, I'm going to get much more comfortable because all of a sudden, I'm going to be selling a lot of those horses that I breed. I'll keep a bunch for myself as well, but I'm going to be selling those horses. So that's kind of where you're at. Yeah, the safer approach, absolutely. I agree with you guys that commented and said, oh, you should sell some and cash in. Now, I already have sold a bunch. I sold a bunch 2-3 months ago. But if I was to sell again and get more comfortable now, then that reduces my potential income through breeding. And And then, as I said, in 3 to 6 months' time, I could have earned that money and kept all the horses in any case and be just as comfortable. So, it's interesting, isn't it? What are you guys tripping or what? I said, am I? The heading says, am I selling all my horses? And you guys are just tripping out. Have you not been listening? Learn from my mistakes. Yeah, I agree with that, Swikes. Maybe take some profits on those exclusives with more potential freak Genesis coming, having that edge. I don't really have any all that many exclusives. I've got like 3. And they're all mares. I need them for breeding. For exactly the same reason. If I reduce my mare stock, then I significantly impact my breeding ability. And particularly if I sell the exclusives I've got left now are all elite races, 20%ers. So again, they're going to the demand for those offspring is going to be high. And the demand for the price you get for exclusives is not that high. Maybe I get 1 or 2 ETH for them, or maybe 3. But the exclusives that I breed from those exclusives will probably get half an ETH or so. So again, it's like within 2 or 3 months, you sort of get that money back anyway. I could sell options on horses, Galactic, but it's if I had time to do that, that might be an option, but I just don't have time. What are the chances of breeding a supercoat? I'm not sure, Richard. I'll have to Google that. We'll do that on a future show. I'll Google it and get some information. James says it depends on coat rarity between 8 and 40%. Okay. Joel says, will those prices really hold? Well, are we talking about the offspring sale prices? Maybe not. Maybe they won't. But they only need to hold for 3 to 6 months to at least get the money that I would have got from selling the horses. And then from then on, it doesn't really matter. Then we're riding free. We're only really comparing selling a percentage of horses now to not selling them and using and generating the income to replace the money that we would have got. So it doesn't really matter. The prices are going to fluctuate. I've placed myself in a position where the horses I have probably aren't as affected by downward pressure as much as breeding 2 donkeys together. Okay, eventually everyone's going to breed their donkeys and try and sell them. And eventually you're going to have too much stock and not enough demand for the donkey horses. Eventually, that's what I think might happen. But if you've got proven winners and those proven winners are breeding and producing more proven winners, then the demand for that is likely always going to be there. Whether or not the prices are pushed down, we don't know. We don't know. But it's not really relative within the conversation, because we're just comparing what selling 30% right now would be like, or riding the bull, grabbing the bull by the horns. There we go, another catchphrase coming, I feel it. Grabbing the bull by the horns and riding for the ride for 3 to 6 months and trying to replace that money through offspring sales. Every month that breeding is open, I would imagine my comfort level increases, because, look, if I've had a bit of fun from this game over a 1 to 2 year period and the game crashes and I happen to have an extra 100,000 in my pocket and a whole lot of useless horses, well, I'll be disappointed to some degree that I was sitting on one of the greatest stables in what I thought was going to be one of the best games of all time. But, it is what it is. I'm in front, I had some good entertainment, had a chat with you guys a couple of times, and it was good fun. And we'll go and find another game. Maybe some other Zed type game pops up and we can jump on that. So, CP, bro, you seriously selling out? No, mate, I'm telling you, these are diamond hands. No, they're not diamond hands, I'll be honest. They're probably a little more diamond than some, but I I'm thinking this out on the economics of what my stable can produce and what those horses are worth to me over a longer period of time. Now, I expect this game will survive. I expect even if we do get some sort of government regulation issue, which I don't expect is on the horizon, I'll be honest, I don't expect that from what I know about the game. But even if we do, I think we'll see a short-term to mid-term downturn and the game will still survive out the other end. Okay? Yeah, that's what's causing this sort of slight doubt in the market at the moment, I think, Dave, particularly for me, is that we're now at the mercy of the devs and the market itself. When is breeding coming back? And what will the value of those kids, grandkids down the line be? The thing is with the highest profile horses or the best said ones in the game or the best any horses in the game is there's only a certain percentage of horse that can race that well within Zed Run. Now, we don't as yet know whether those same horses, Breathless Edge, Grandeur, or even Baroque or some of the other ones that are in there, whether they can produce the greatest kids of all time, the greatest racing offspring of all time. Maybe they can't, and that's a risk to me as well. So I have to try and breed with the best, and hopefully prove that. And if I can prove that, then that goes a long way to keeping the value at a high level. Because again, remember, Grandeur can only produce 7 kids per month. And of the horses at Grandeur's level or above, there's probably only 20. Maybe a few more. If we're talking Z1s, there's probably only 10. So there's only 70 Z2s that can have, the genetics as good as what Grandeur can produce potentially. Now, when you're talking a market of 100 or a couple of 100,000 people, or maybe in the future 1 million people, it would seem that you'd be able to sell 7 of those pretty easily. Joel, mostly concerned about the growth of users flattening or flatlining. Yeah, absolutely, mate. The Discord has flattened, but that's the way it's going to go. You get different streams of influencers sort of promoting the game and stories in the Financial Times. So the next story in the Financial Times is not going to draw in as many people because all of those early adopters have already seen that story, most of them, and they've already joined. So yeah, it's just sort of word of mouth, and it will grow much, much more slowly unless, of course, we get a huge influencer, as I said yesterday, someone like if Gary V decides he's buying some horses and setting up a stable, then, we get another big burst, but, it's going to happen. I did a story with the local or the national papers here in Australia yesterday. So that will be coming out in Australia this week. So it's going to happen. I'm not too concerned about those users flatlining at this point. I think the next drop and when breeding opens, we will see a lot more people coming into this game. There's a lot of people also that are taking notice on OpenSea now that Zed is back on regular OpenSea. And you can see on OpenSea as well that we're usually about first or second on that list, which is really nice. What are we today? We were second, but there was a kind of a glitchy... We were third yesterday, sorry, but we're normally second behind. Yeah, we're back to second. CryptoPunks is normally number 1 in sales. Zed Run for the last week has been sitting at number 2. So that's getting a lot of exposure on OpenSea as well, which is absolutely phenomenal. And that exposure helps to sell more stock. Now, at the moment, we have no stock. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. But yeah, they're all the risks, aren't they? They're all the risks. But you've got to make up your own mind. Yeah, CJ, if it goes the way, it all depends on the way the game goes. If it hits the growth that we all hope it does, the fact that I am one of the top guys and vendors of offspring, it would be a no-brainer holding. And that's the risk. If I sell now, I'm giving that opportunity to someone else to pay those horses off in probably 3 to 6 months. And as I said before, is that something that I want to sell that opportunity, or would I rather just ride it out? Would I rather ride that out? And I'm thinking that maybe I just hang on and ride it out. It's no big deal. If it goes to zero, it is what it is, right? I would be disappointed, but the drop, really hoping for a good update today. Yeah, come on, tell us when breeding is. Why do I think the Zed team is so bad at communicating? I think they're just run off their feet. Seriously, I think they're just under the pump, just with so many different things going on and partnerships, and the devs are just going crazy trying to fix all the stuff in the background, trying to keep up with the demand and the user growth. Okay, that creates all sorts of issues as well. I've been chatting with Jo, who is I think she's the communications manager of Zed Run, and I'm trying to get a regular slot on the show with either Jo or one of the team members. Maybe we mix it and match it, so that we can literally ask questions of the devs or of the team as we go. So keep your eye out for that. We'll see if we can get that going. But I'm also seeing they're doing a bi-weekly blog post. Once every 2 weeks, they're dropping a blog sort of talking about where they're going. I'm also hearing that they're working on a big vision paper that outlines the roadmap. So we'll have that shortly too, or maybe not shortly, maybe in the next couple of months. So that will be interesting, because we're hoping to get obviously updates on the DES token and how that's going to work, and all sorts of different things about where we're going. So that will be awesome. Big Earn, will I be investing in future drops? If so, what are your targets, thoughts for yourself? Big Earn, at this stage, I've got no Ethereum to buy at future drops, so I probably won't be. I might try and get some low numbers, 8s, 9s, 10s, because that's a no-brainer, right? They're the ones that, the 8s, 9s, and 10s, you buy them for a couple of $100, $200-300, and you can sell them for $1,000, like easily. And you can race them. I raced that Z8 the other day, and I probably sold it too cheap, to be honest, but I raced that Z8. It got $8, $9, I think, in the Griffin, and then a couple of 12s after that, 12s or 13s, and I didn't feel like that was a horse that I really wanted to keep. It was a pretty good horse. Now that I think about it, it's probably did sell too cheap. And I sold it for like 3 or 4x of what the price was. So I got to open it, have a look if it was any good, and then sell it. And I still think it's a pretty good horse. You guys are classics. If you don't own your house, you're insane not to cash out and pay it off. Call me insane. I don't even have a mortgage because I'm renting. But yeah, call me insane. Yeah, Swikes, we'll see that more news on that Dead's coin, hopefully when that vision paper is released. We're not doing horse reviews today, Scott, but yeah, another day we will. Operation Wolf, waiting for the next drop myself, with prices holding firm on OpenSea. Having watched a lot of races now, they do need to vary the tracks a little, adding in a steeplechase. Yeah, they will do that, I'm sure, Operation Wolf, but it's a long way off. There's a lot of priorities on the list before we get to adding steeplechases. Yeah, Galactic, that sounds like a good idea, but for a little dude like me to set up a stable, a separate stable, and sell shares in that stable, then it requires me to report, it requires me to be active, it requires me to, tell the shareholders what I'm doing with breeding wise and justify the amount of money that I'm selling these horses for. No thanks, no thanks. I mean, I'm open to listening. Contact me if you've got a good idea on how to, potentially shore up the assets. Drop, that's a good idea, like office hours. I'm not sure what that's referring to. M Plum, the Z team isn't bad at communicating, it's just there isn't much progress. Yeah, true. No clue. Yeah, there's a lot of work going in the background. There's a lot of work going into the background, and there's a lot of development in this game to come. And keep in mind, I've been around for a year, and we see times when things look like they're moving really, really quickly because all these things kind of get launched, and then we have these times when it feels like nothing's moving at all and we're going nowhere. But even with where we're at right now, there's a couple of thousand races a day. Back 12 months ago, we were lucky to have one race a day. CJ Rise, yeah, let's CJ Rise, let's jump over here. There's an interesting, if we have a look at Z1s, for example, I've spoken about tournament style horses. If we go to cheapest, this is an ex-horse of mine actually, Tinder Romance. Now if we go to Know Your Horses, let's see what you get for 9.9. You can see some of the ones I've been searching there. Oh, there's Tinder Romance. Now, we don't know how the tournament's going to be working. It might be the top 4 go through. Often in a single elimination style event, it's 50% go through, so the top 6 might go through. So, you know, this sort of consistency in a horse might be decent for a tournament style event where the top 6 progress each round. You can see the majority of this horse's races are contained, or finishing positions are contained within 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7's a bit of a concern, holding 13%, but then after that, it's not too bad. So, you know, I'm assuming that consistency is a breedable gene. And a lot of these horses that don't necessarily have the burst of speed to be great winners seem to have this really consistent where they generally sit between the majority of their races between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brackets like so. So if you can find a horse that has 5 brackets but starts from number 2 and doesn't have that big element of 7, so that 60, 70, 80% of the races are in the top 6. If you think tournament racing is going to be a thing like I do, that might be somewhere where you can find a lot of value currently, a lot of value. Scott, divergent course. Scott says that filly might be a partner for Insane Him. All right, well, yeah, give me a private message and let me know if you've got a horse that's 15 winning percentage against and sort of holding, you know, 10s, odds of 10s or below against the best quality horses in the game, then I would be absolutely interested for sure. G'day, Main Mac. Sir Capalot. Better off buying Genesis horses when new to the game or buying bred? I think if you can get horses at the drop, and not financial advice, of course. I think if you can get horses at the drop, particularly the 8s, 9s and 10s look to be considerably undervalued in comparison to what you'll be buying them on OpenSea. But then again, you can also buy like some really good Z2 legendaries for like a couple of ETH. And when you consider that what's a Z2 Genesis worth? What's a Z2 Genesis worth? The cheapest on the market is... Oh, that's not a Genesis. That's a legendary. Well, I hope it's a legendary, otherwise I'll be buying it. 4.4. So, yeah, you can also get some really good legendaries. If they're coming from really good Genesis horses, those legendaries, then, you know, you might be onto something. But I'm not of the thought process that buying donkey legendaries or donkey bred horses from good blood is the greatest idea in the world. I think you can produce good offspring. They can be decent breeders. But I also think one of the best signs that, for example, Grandeur has passed down his great racing genetics to the next generation, to his sons and daughters, is if they are decent racers themselves. I've seen that Grandeur can produce decent races, and I've seen he can produce pretty ordinary races. Now, I would value the decent races at a much higher level than those ordinary ones, and I think most people would. But, yeah, so I guess it's a budget thing. Yeah, the drop, they are updating every 2 weeks, the Zed Run team, so that's pretty good. I expect they'll update that blog today or so, but I'm also communicating with them to try and get something in those off weeks, or maybe once a month. We just get a dev update or a vision update, what's coming, what are the priorities, those kind of things, so that we can really keep the community updated. So we're really trying to do that as well. Steve, I don't want a Lambo. Sell and buy a Lambo. I'd rather own Grandeur than a Lambo. Come on, here's a Lambo. What are you talking about? Here's a Ferrari, that thing. And the Lambo, unless I rent it out, ain't going to give me 10 or 15 ETH a month either, is it? And that's important too. That's a really big thing in my opinion. Eventually, and this is just my opinion again, don't use it to trade on. Eventually we're going to go into another downturn for crypto, okay? Maybe we're in it already. Who knows? It's been a fun 2 weeks in crypto, hasn't it, if you've got a bit of money invested in there. But eventually we're going to see another crypto winter, or some degree of winter. Whether it's as cold as the last couple of winters have been, we don't know. Cold and frosty. But what I love about Zed is the ability to continually move through that crypto downturn and just slowly buy and sell and breed and sell these offspring and accumulate Ethereum while it's sort of in its lull. And then as we come out of that lull into, the next cycle, then you're sort of sitting on this incredible stack of Ethereum that maybe didn't look as impressive, but once you hit the next cycle, it starts to really look impressive. Okay, so then you really get some nice returns from selling those offspring, even if at the time Granger's offspring goes, maybe it stays at, so let's assume that Granger's offspring sell at an average of 3 Ethereum right now. And Ethereum has, and even with Ethereum at $4,000 a few weeks ago, let's assume that was the case. So you're getting 12,000 US dollars for a Granger offspring. Now let's assume in 6-12 months that Ethereum drops back to $1,000. And we're still getting 3 Ethereum. But that Ethereum is now only representing 3,000 US dollars. So you're like, oh, that's not very good. But if you're a big Ethereum fan, it doesn't really make much difference. Okay? Because eventually, or maybe not, maybe Ethereum goes to 0 as well. But eventually Ethereum should find a new cycle and then uptick again. And that work of accumulating and selling those offspring through that down period could become very much worthwhile. Who knows? Yeah, look guys, you're talking about the Zed. Look, I can't give the Zed team more than enough credit for the great job that they've been doing so far to date. This is one of their first projects, but it's been handled like a pro team that, this is their 10th game that they've designed or their 100th game that they've designed. I think you might disagree with me, but I think this has been handled exceptionally. Keep in mind, it's very difficult to design and develop any game in beta with 50,000 people critiquing you, all right? And they're doing an incredible game of listening and then taking on the best parts of that critique and then modifying the game appropriately so that we get the absolute best result. And I've seen that over the last 12 months. They're doing an incredible job. Oh, nice, CJ. You picked up a cheap Z3 unbred legendary with 4% win rate, but 70% 6 and above. Nice. That's exactly what I'm looking for sure. Bring on the tournaments for those style races. Hey, that would be epic. I'm really looking forward to. And keep in mind, a lot of people are like, at the moment, are a bit disappointed with their horses and selling them because they're not winning the current format. But when we have more formats, and if you've managed to build up a stable of 10 or 12 horses, or 20 or 50 or 100 horses, who knows, it'll just be about choosing the right horse for the right race. So we've only got one format of race at the moment, which is that singular race event based on the 5-class system. But when we have races that are based on colour or based on, whether they're a colt, a filly, a stallion, or a mare maybe, or what else? What else could we have? All sorts. Oh, you could have races based on Genesis, purely legendary, purely exclusive, purely elite, purely cross, and purely pacer. All those different things. You could have novelty races where, you've got to pick a horse that's going to finish 4th, 5th, or 6th. 4th is the ideal finishing position. We all hate coming 4th at the moment because it gives us class points but doesn't give us any money back. So you could have a race where 4th is the winner and 5th, 6th, 7th or something get paid out. So you have to choose a horse that loves running 4ths. All right, so how good would that be? That would be cool. And then it's kind of like, I imagine a game or a race page where you sort of select, okay, what do you want? All right, I want a Genesis only race, or I want a legendary only. So you would more likely, instead of going to the race page first, you would go into your stable and look for which horse you wanted to particularly race. I want to race Grandeur. What would be a good race for Grandeur? Oh, Grandeur would be a good Genesis only race. Yeah, that would be good. He would be a good male stud race. These kind of things. So that'd be cool too. Knack Cross, you got a Knack Cross for 0.15. Yep. I mean, who knows if it's worth breeding or whatnot. I don't know. The cross, it might be. We don't know. At this stage, I think at this stage the game is very forgiving because you've got this enormous demand. There's a lot of people out there wanting horses and they can't quite get them at the moment at the right price point. And once breeding opens, that's going to loosen up a little bit. So I think you can get away with a lot of bad decisions right now. But the sort of the reckoning of the game and when you're going to have to really make good decisions is probably maybe 3 months away. And then maybe some of those bad decisions you won't be able to get away with anymore. Raymond, he keeps hearing the class system is messed up right now, but I don't see any harm in racing your Z8, 9, 10 in that first race. No, I raced a couple. In fact, I raced a Z5 called Nightway. I think I mentioned that yesterday. And it's getting pretty good odds. It's getting like 10s and 11s in the paid races against some very, very good horses. So I'm happy with that. And it's also had 2 wins and 2 fourths out of 4 races. So that's pretty good as well. So it looks like I've got a consistent horse rather than a first last horse, if I had to guess. Robert, how's it going? It's going well. But yeah, sorry. So I have had the old itchy fingers a little bit. New catchphrase. I'm going to have to go through my own videos. Can someone write these down so I can make t-shirts? Itchy fingers by Poseidon. I like it. So I have had the itchy fingers and I've been putting a few horses in Griffins. But what I'm really waiting for the other 5 or 6 that I've still got unraced is I'm waiting for breeding, because when breeding opens, the Griffins get really, really weak. And when you put a Genesis horse in with all those bred Griffins, you're a big chance of winning your first race. And as we know, that helps in the resale value of the horse to a degree. So I'm waiting for that. I might race another 1 or 2 in the meantime. What generally happens with me is I'll just sort of continually race 1 every couple of days, and then I'll get down to like 1 or 2 left, and I'll eventually just race them out of frustration, and then the next day breeding will open. So if you want breeding to open, just keep your eye on how many unraced horses I've got left. M Plum, when breeding was open, Are you able to breed half brother to half sister? I don't know. There was a rumour that you could, as long as it was on one side of the family. Now, I'm not sure about this. So, for example, what I mean about that, there was a rumour that you could breed half brothers and half sisters on the father, if the father was the connecting link, but not if the mother was the connecting link, or vice versa. I don't really know. CJ, how do you think those tournament styles could pay consistent horses? Who knows, mate? But if we're talking about, so he says maybe you get to pay every round you complete. I doubt that. Well, it could be a fun way to do it. We could certainly have that as a thing. Like you put in $5 and you get 50 cents back for every round you compete, and then if you get to the end and win it, you get a much bigger pot. That would be kind of cool. I like that. I do like that idea. I mean, initially I thought that it would just be you put your $5 in at the start with 1,000 other horses, and then you all get to the final race and the winner gets 50% of that pot. So it's a really nice big pot. But the consistent horses, I mean, when you're talking a tournament style, if we assume, and wrongly or rightly, but if we assume that a tournament's going to allow the top 6 horses to go through to the next race each time, then you're going to want a horse that doesn't finish last lots, or doesn't finish 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th lots. Okay, and if you look at a horse like, if we come over here, let's have a look at a Ducky. And then we'll have a look at Pink Man maybe. Get this kind of thing. You get a horse that's finishing 20%, so roughly 1 in 5 races is last. Okay, and if you add up from 7th onwards, you got 3, 6, 11, we'll call that a 6, 17, we'll call that 11, 28, and we'll call that obviously 20, so you end up with 48. You've got a horse in Ducky that finishes 50% of the time in the bottom half of the field. Now that would suggest that it's not going to go 10 races deep in one of those tournaments. I'm not saying that Ducky can't, I'm just saying in comparison to a horse like Tinder, you know, that only has 13, 16, 18, 19, 21%, you know, 80% in the top 6. Now Ducky's racing at a much higher quality level, but there you go. What about Pink Man? Oh, Pinkin. Yeah, same. Maybe even slightly worse. So 4, well, we'll call it 5, 9, 14, 21, 31. So this one is at bang on 50%, okay? So is a horse that finishes in the bottom half of the field roughly 50% of the time going to make it through a 10-tier tournament? I would think it unlikely. Which is going to open up the field for a whole lot of other horses. And then when you consider that multi-tier tournaments may end up being the most prestigious, like if you think about poker, the World Series of Poker starts off with so many thousand players and is the most prestigious event in the world for poker, if you win that. As opposed to just an individual single table event at your local, you know, poker event, something like that, okay? Is that what we're currently looking at? Is that the future? Is the future going to be a horse that wins 2 or 3 World Series of Zed Run? Is that going to be the most elite horse? Maybe. You know, if we look at a horse, if we then look at some horses like, let's have a look at Breathless Edge, for example, who has a great winning percentage, but how does it finish last? Okay, so yeah, okay. What do we got here? 6, 11, we'll call that one 6 as well, 17, 5, 22, 26, and 7, 33%. So that's not too bad for a horse that's a winner. What about, I think Granger's even better. Have a look at Granger. Oh. So Breathless was 26. This one is 8, 12, 14, 20, 26. Okay, so they're both roughly the same. But you can get horses that even have a lesser degree of that going on as well. A lesser degree of that going on. Whether over the long term they can hold that, but... there is some word out, Jeffrey, on the prediction of minimum breeding costs. I think there's been a blog post. Do a little bit of Google search and you should find that. Lord Truffington, best name in the world. Hello, Lord Truffington. Oh, Lord Truffington. You can breed to half siblings that share the father, says Lord Truffington. I hope you subscribe, mate. That's the first time I've seen your name. I would have recognised that before. Hit the sub button. Hit the like button too. You guys just don't pay your entry unless I ask you to, do you? We're going to have to make that a habit. Galactic Curiosities. In poker, you have much more control over the outcome of the tournament. In poker, you have much more control over the outcome of the tournament. So in something like Zed, where so much of the result is black box, how could they do big dollar tournaments? I'm not suggesting that we all put in $10,000 for the World Series of Zed Run. I think the World Series of Z1 could be run once a year and just be like $100 or something. And if you want to enter, you enter, or it could even be $10. And I think most of those tournaments, could be multi-tier tournaments. Could be like $5. Doesn't matter, $5. And then it's just about choosing the right horses. So you could have tournaments that are specific to a distance, like a 1,000 metre multi-tier tournament where it goes 1,000 metre, 1,000 metre, 1,000 metre, 1,000 metre. So you have to choose a consistent 1,000 metre horse that finishes in the top 6. But then you could have a completely random run tournament that goes 1,000 metre, 1,800, 2,600, 1,400, 2,000, 2,000 metre, and then it just sort of randomises it up with different weather conditions. You could also have, once we get the weather conditions, you could have a mud runner tournament that is all rainy weather. All these different scenarios. So, look, as much as there is more control over what you do with your cards in poker, there is still enough control over your ability as a trainer to choose the horse that has the greatest winning chance for the right tournament, much the same as what it is right now. I only choose horses that I think have an advantage or an edge in winning to go in any specific race. And that's what everyone should be doing. The Iron what was it? Tempest. No. It's not bad, but I would suggest that these are going to fill out, and this is just an anomaly at the moment. I would suggest that's going to fill out. These are concerning, 12.5% and 15%, which are up there with your second highest and third highest, roughly, percentage placings. So no, I wouldn't think so. You will see after, maybe you need more races. After 100 or so races, you see these distinct sort of peaks, like mountain peaks, and you want the mountain peak to be up in the top half. This is an old horse of mine. What was it called? Full House. This one's actually for sale at the moment, or at least it was, I think. And this looks to be, I wish I kept it, it looks to be a decent tournament racer. Well, maybe not. It's not bad though. See, you're getting this peak here. Maybe it's a little bit too far right. You want that peak to be up around second, third, and then drift off, ideally. How are still at me. Why not cash out enough to buy a house? If you had $1 million cash, would you out it all in Zed? No, of course I wouldn't. But that's not the point. That's not the point. I've got an opportunity. So, okay, let me put it in a slightly different position. Okay, so yes, if I cash out all that I've got in, I would need to cash out all of my horses in Zed to buy a house. The houses where I live are ridiculously expensive. $1 million doesn't get you much here. And you think, well, there must be cheap houses here. No, there's only 500 or 1,000 houses in this place where I live, and they're all stupid money. They've gone up as if anyone at home's trying to buy a house. I mean, any of you guys at home are trying to buy a house in your area. The current economic climate has sent the houses in my area up by probably 100% in the last 18 months. Okay, so I've missed that boat. Now, I would need to sell all my horses in Zed to probably have a mortgage-free house. I've already got enough money to have a house with a mortgage when the right house comes up. So that's kind of where I'm at. Now, that money is not going to change all that much, okay? But the income derived from not selling any horses would be life-changing money, okay? So that's where I'm standing, and that's why I'm willing to take the risk. You know, if I sell a third of my horses for a couple of $100,000, then I split it with my brother, we get $150,000 each. You know, it's not going to make that big a difference. If I sell all my horses for $1 million, everything that we own is probably about right. We could liquidate for $1 million, maybe a little bit more. And I'm going to get a house and still have a little bit of a mortgage. So it's not going to be that much different. And I still have to work my every other day job and all those things to pay for the expenses and bills and whatever little mortgage is left. But with Zed Run, as it currently stands, if this becomes a thing and I don't sell any horses, then there's life-changing money being earned each and every single month potentially. So that is the gamble, and that is the stance that I'm sitting on. Will I sell any horses in the future? Look, maybe I will. If someone was to come to me and say, I'll give you $500,000 for grandeur or $500,000 for breathless, we would certainly think about it. And that would be probably silly to say no to. But we have said no to $500,000 on breathless before. Maybe I should have taken it. But as it turns out, it wasn't a legitimate offer. It was a scam offer, but it doesn't matter. We didn't know it was a scam when we said no, so we did say no. We did say no. All right, let's keep on moving. This is a good little conversational one this morning, isn't it? Well, it's all me doing all the talking. Well, not really. You guys are putting a lot of input in as well, which is great. But I keep saying no, no, no. And you know what makes me really nervous? It does make me really nervous because I know that Murphy's Law, when you take a stance like this, often bites you on the butt. So it'll probably, and you guys will all come back and say, oh, I told you so, I told you so. And that'll feel absolutely fantastic for me, won't it? But anyway, that's the risk I'm willing to take. And if it all crumbles and turns to dust, well, I'm in not that much a worse off position, to be honest. I can still afford a house. I still have to work my day job. And I'm roughly sitting where I am now. If I sell all my horses for that $1 million, I can afford a house more comfortably, but I still have to work my day job. But if I go roughly a more all-in approach and fully trust and believe in my vision for Zed, then we have a life-changing opportunity. Okay, so you've got to weigh that up. Do you forego the life-changing opportunity to have that early cash out? You might not agree with me, but I trust in myself that if this all goes pear-shaped, that I will be able to find another opportunity in the future. I've done it many, many times before, and I'll do it more so again in the future. Treasure hold, haven't heard of that one. All right, let's go back here and we'll just wrap up these questions. UFO nut, I'm holding on to some of my donkeys with the hoping that they will be great on rainy days in Iceland in gate 13. Yeah, that gate 13. I'm hoping that my horses will be good in gate 13 too. Nevada, what question? Oh, that question. Hey Sadzi, I would like a way to contact you about your art NFTs. Just contact me through the website below. Poseidon Racing.run. Just contact me via that, Nevada, and we can talk about the NFTs. Guys, remember in the link below, that NFT, let's have a look. Where are we actually? Where are we? How are we going? Is anyone bidding on this NFT? Probably not. It might go for what it was a week ago. Let's have a look. Remember, the NFT is for sale and it finishes off tomorrow. Oh. Okay, so this is the NFT. Oh, look at that. It's gone red. 23 hours to go. We might do this live tomorrow. That will be an interesting live YouTube on it as we go twiddle our thumbs like, Yeah, is anyone going to bid on this? It's been it's been 5 or 6 days since our last bid, and look, I'm not. $574 is very good money for my first NFT. I won't lie, I think it's worth considerably more than that. Well, maybe not considerably more than that, but I think it's an absolute bargain at that level to pick up not only a one-of-one NFT and my very first NFT, but also you also get the one-of-one physical print. So I think that's an absolute incredibly good price at that level. Now, for those of you that don't know, you can look up www.australianphotographer.com. I am an established and very well-known photographer within Australia. You can check out, have a read of the About page, and if you're interested in all the awards and all that kind of stuff there, and have a flick through the photos. Trevor, congrats. Sounds like you got a better horse than what you sold. That's awesome. You won't let this go. How what's up, will ya? I know a guy that was worth 1.2 million in Top Shot. He's down $1 million now. Yeah, that's the risk, isn't it? That's the risk. But Top Shot and Zed are very, very different, and it's all to do with the yield. What I'm talking about is, if I was to sell, that's the other thing, okay? The yield is the important thing to me. The yield and the return on investment and the potential monthly income. That's the important thing, not the actual investment, okay? Now, whether or not the investment itself and people are not buying horses goes down, and even if the offspring sales goes down, the yield versus what I've got invested is still absolutely phenomenal. So, as far as I know, Top Shot doesn't have a yield, and most of the NFTs currently don't have any yield potential. All right, but Zed Run does, and that's what makes it so attractive. Okay, and that's what makes that so valuable. And I ask myself, look, you know what? If I've got 100,000 to invest, could I find, and I do have some money on the sidelines currently, could I find something better to invest in that yields higher than Zed Run? No, I don't think I could, and that's not financial advice. But I don't think I could. So for me to go and sell, that's the point. For me to go and sell half of my horses just to find the safety of cash, when I probably want to then put that cash back to work in something that is not as good as Zed Run, is crazy to me. All right, I can already afford a house when the house comes up, so that's kind of where I'm standing with that. I can already afford the house. If I couldn't afford the house, then yeah, absolutely. I'd be crazy not to do something and make sure that I can afford the house. But it's the yield that is important. It's not the value of the asset itself. Hope that makes sense. Nevada, I'm super excited to hear what you're talking about. Let's have a chat. Demand outweighing supply on Zed horses. Well, that's only going to last for a certain period of time, but I do feel that if you set you up with the key pieces of the Zed Run puzzle, that your offspring will hold value for a much longer period of time, maybe even forever. If you are able to produce champion winning horses, and there's no proof that I am able to do that yet, I'm only just sitting on what I think to be the key pieces to that puzzle. But once I put those puzzle pieces together, if I can find a way of producing a consistent level of a high rating horse or a high win percentage horse or even a high consistency horse, then, you know, those horses are going to be in demand because they'll be winning money. That's a good question, Mike, and we'll finish up on that. Mike asks, thanks, Andy. It'll probably all come crashing down, and yeah, you guys will get the opportunity to say, "I told you so," like I said, and if that happens to be the case, then that's completely okay. Mike asks, how are you now valuing these type of consistent finishing horses that we talked about, like, you know, Full House here, or I think even Grandeur. What's Insane Him? I guess Insane Him is probably not as consistent as, say, Breathless or Grandeur. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Do I have any? What about Hammer? That's another one of my horses. One of my mares. Promising early, yeah, isn't it? Only one outside the top 6 from 19 runs. Hammer! Go Hammer. All right, that's interesting. All right, so that would be one that I would be interested in, but it doesn't really, I would want to see 100 races eventually, and hopefully this stays consistent. And it's not been racing in quality races, let's be honest. It's been racing free races. And when it did race a quality race, it finished 9th, so yeah. Who else have we got? Tramp. No, I don't think Tramp is that good. Not bad, not bad, not bad. All right. So Mike, on that point, asks, how am I now valuing these type of consistent finishes that could do well in tournaments? Similar price to an above average horse? More valuable, less valuable? I don't think so. I mean, I have been looking in the market to try and pick these up as bargains. And all I'm basically doing is coming over here to OpenSea and clicking Zed Run, and then I'll just go through the different Genesis levels. So choose Genesis, and then, you know, I might start with, you know, if we go to say, let's go to say 4, let's go to 4s to start with. And what you'll generally find is if we go to cheapest, you'll probably find the horses have very little wins. Okay, so 1.3 currently, Rest and Recover. And then I just type it in here. Okay, that spike's a little bit too far to the right for mine, so I wouldn't go with that one. And then I just keep going down. Stock Market Misery. Yeah, again, maybe you're better off also maybe typing in number of races and bring that up to like 40. Diplomatic Immunity. I'm hopeless at spelling. Let's just go with immunity. Again, that spike. See, this is what you'll find. You'll find these tapers. And you'll find that your horse generally has a spike at one particular finishing point, and it tapers either side. If we go back to someone like, well, Breathless Edge is a good example. I mean, this is the ideal horse, really, isn't it? Because its spike is here, okay, and tapers down. You know, and maybe I would like to see a few less 12ths and a few less 7, a few less of all of these, to be perfectly honest. But are we going to see that horse ever? Complicated Sofa. Let's have a look. Sofa. There can't be many Sofa names. Yeah, again, too deep to the right. You're hilarious. How whatsa? Okay, so yeah, I'm not sure how to. I'm just looking for prices that I believe are under market value for these horses, because we have no confirmation that this is going to be a thing ever. So it might just be a gamble buying those styles of horses. So what if I have a Z10 Buter, and what kind of passive income I'm going to look? I don't know. I don't have any Z10 studs or mares. I don't know what Z20 legends go for. You need to do that research. What does Z20 legends go for? Or if you've got a Z10 stud and a Z1 mare, what does Z11 legends go for? You know what the horses that you are capable of producing. And is your Z10 a great racer? If it's one of the great races versus an unraced versus a donkey, you know, what are they going to go for? You've got to weigh that up. I've weighed all that up with my horses, and I've slowly weeded out my stable and bought and sold to get some of the best horses in the game. And then where do you go from there? So that you've got to weigh that income up yourself and do that research. So you can go to places like, what's that? Zed Run? I can't remember. If you're in the Facebook group, Poseidon Racing Facebook group, there's a Zed Run Tools post where it's got all the tools, and there's some great pricing tools in there, and you can figure that out. Goomba, that's another risk. Goomba asks, what if my offspring end up being mostly donkeys for some unlucky reason? Then that's the risk. That is the risk, isn't it? But in saying that, Goomba, I think, even if they are all donkeys for some unknown reason, I think I can still get through 3 to 6 months, you know, assuming that there's some good horses in there. I think I can still get that through that period. So what we're weighing up here, just to clarify, what we're weighing up here is, this is what the conversation was, and Hawatsa's getting, you won't let it go. Hawatsa, let it go. It's okay. You know, it's my risk, not yours. And I know that you're only looking out for my best interests, and I appreciate that. But what we're weighing up here is, do I sell $300,000 worth of horses, let's say 1/3 of my horses, right now, and make sure that I get $150,000 for me, $150,000 for my brother? Or do I hold them all and wait 3 months of breeding and have 150 and have 300,000 or 150,000 anyway? Do you know what I mean? Like, all I have to do is potentially wait 3 to 4 to 5 months, and we will have at least the same, or maybe even more, than selling 1/3 of the horses now, and I won't have had to have sold a horse. So if I am confident that the ecosystem, well, first of all, I have to be confident that breeding will come online in the next month and stay online for the next 3 or 6 months. Okay, that's a big if, a huge if, given that breeding is currently not online. And given that last time they put it online, it got ripped back off within 3 days. Okay, so that's the big if. And then the second big if is the Zed ecosystem going to at least stay and not deteriorate in the next 3 to 6 months? And that's the next big if. So there's a couple of big ifs, but both of those I'm relatively confident, and we can't hit any major regulatory road bumps. All right, so there's some big ifs. But I think the risk is well in favour of holding for 3 months and seeing what happens, in my opinion. Now, you might be different. If you're sitting on 10 or 20 horses, you might want to sell a couple just to make sure that you get your money back. You might want to. Greed, howatza. It's Greed Jets holding. Greedy holding? Maybe it is. You're back from cashing out. You're back from cashing out? You're starting to make less and less sense, mate. I get your point, though. You feel like it's greedy holding on. I feel like it's not greedy, and I feel like it's smart holding on. All right? There might be a little bit of greed in there as well, in wanting to hold and wanting to protect that potential future income. Absolutely. But I also think it's the smarter decision. And I feel like often, okay, and I'll put it this way, often when everyone else is saying sell is the point where you should hold as well. Now that might not be applicable here because that's generally when the market is crashing. When everyone's running for the exit, you potentially should be, not financial advice, you potentially that is always, well not always, but sometimes the best time to be buying. But that's not the case here. Zed's at the top. So based on, if we were talking this based on a stock market valuation or based on a crypto market valuation, then now is probably a good time to sell. Absolutely it is. But I don't want to diminish my potential income moving forward. Yeah, thanks, how's that? I know you're only looking out for my best interest and that's important. And you might get an opportunity to say, I told you so. And then I'll have to eat my humble pie. But as I said, I feel like even if this takes a major crash and has a major downturn, that in 5 years it will all kick back up and recover. I think the game has that much potential that we can get through some hiccups. Scott, what's the best place to message me regarding Insane Him? Facebook, Discord if you can find me under Poseidon Racing, email via poseidonracing.run. It's all in the description below. Nevada, are you going to bid on the NFTs? Oh, I don't have that up anymore. Zed to the moon, Raymond. Yeah, you understand it. Look, don't get me wrong. I've thought many times about selling 1 or 2 or 3 horses or a percentage of horses, and I've contacted a few people, a few bigger buyers around to see if they were interested at the level that I was wishing to sell. But to be honest, the money is not there based on the fact that you have to sell your horses for prices that they would potentially return to you in 3 months anyway. So as long as breeding is open. All right, cool. Let's wrap it up there. That was fun. Guys, hit the like button. 49 viewers, 36 likes. It was a good fun chat. And I won't be selling right now. We might sell 1 or 2 here and there. I've got a few more Genesis. I've got one Genesis Zed Run unraced that I'm looking forward to racing. Fingers crossed. We got the full racing equivalent of Breathless Edge. How good would that be? It's like scratching a lotto ticket, right, isn't it? Look, don't get me wrong. Most of the Z1s are nothing like Breathless Edge. It's about a 1 in 100 shot, potentially. Maybe even 1 in 200 shot. But, come on. It would be nice if... I don't deserve it. I really don't deserve another great racer, but that would be lovely. All right. Let's wrap it up there. And guys, we'll probably be back tomorrow. So thanks for watching along, and fingers crossed, breeding opens soon so I can start to feel more comfortable. Have a look at poseidonracing.run, join the offspring sales so that you can partake in allowing me to build up that E-stack and getting more comfortable. Keep in mind that when I sell my offspring, my brother and I intend on selling those offspring at below market value to give you guys a chance to either flip those horses or race and sell them at minimal risk, okay? And we intend on doing that into the future. We want our horses to sell out quickly each and every time because they're great value, much like the Z drops do. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you haven't already joined that advanced notice list, then you might want to do that. Okay, Chat soon. Bye for now.